The piece you just heard was based on sixths, and you find them to be a really colorful and useful interval. You can start to recognize some of the shapes that sixths take right out of some really familiar chords. For instance, if you take an A shape here with a root on the sixth string, there you have a pair right here between C sharp and A. You have another pair down here between E and C sharp. So those are sixths within this chord. Then you have another pair down here in an A chord in this voicing. You have an E on the bottom and a C sharp on top. Same E and C sharp here. Now, the reason that you're seeing them within a chord, and the chord is built on roots, thirds, and fifths, is that sixths are essentially inverted thirds, right? If I had a C sharp with an E over the top, I'd have thirds. Instead, I have an E on the bottom and a C sharp here. So the point is that the shapes that you can find are within chords that you already know. So let's look at some of the shapes that sixths alone as double stops take as you progress with them up pairs of strings. So first we'll look at the pairs between the second and fourth strings. And they go right up the scale like this. I'm just climbing an A scale twice, really. I'm climbing it simultaneously from 2 points. So I just have to hit the notes that are within an A scale. There they are on that string. And if you look at them up top, climbing up from this A, from the top of this A chord here, with C sharp over A, you have. So there you see some of the basic shapes for them. You can find them all over the neck, and you can find them on other string pairs. You can refer to the charts to find those other shapes. So getting back to the piece, again, it was constructed on sixths, and that is, I used sixths as a basic rule when looking for a melodic idea or a little bit of an improvisation in the rhythm or maybe a little bit of a fill. I tried to keep it fairly strictly to sixths. I played a little bit loosely harmonically, and we'll get to that in the example, but sixths are the rule of the day for this. So we're just starting out laying out an A chord and establishing our key. And then I climb on sixths in the key of A from E. So although we've been looking at them in terms of double stop pairs, I'm now here taking a little bit more of a linear approach and climbing sixths from E to C sharp. Again, those are the ones that we looked at earlier. E to C sharp, F sharp to D, and C sharp to A. So even by forcing a little silly rule like that on myself, I came up with a line that I otherwise might not have, and it's kind of nice and angular and takes you off guard a little bit. Basically same thing working there. Now I'm on a D chord. I'm on a 4 chord here, and I borrow out of a D chord to do sixths out of here. That's a really common move to do with sixths because they do hammer so nicely. And it kind of implies a chord change that isn't really in there. You're kind of implying a D to G, but you're doing it just with a nice light fill. They also slide nicely because the shapes stay consistent, they stay parallel, so you can kind of box them out, move them around a little bit more easily. And then I just brighten that up with the rest of the D, just planting the root up there on top. Now I'm down to another couple of pairs to get back to my 1 chord. Now here I'm just thumping a little bit on the root, on the open A there, and I'm arpeggiating some 6 pairs. Now we're in the key of A, so there should really be a G sharp if I wanted to stay with a major 7 interval. I play with a little bit here. You can imply an A7 by using a G natural instead of a G sharp, and I did that. It gives a little bit more of a country twangy feel. And again, I'm using those pairs we're learning. Now I'm down to one last pair here. Another pair, C sharp to A, and then B to G sharp. Now you can see that landed me right in an E7 shape. So I'm which is really convenient because I want it to be on my 5 chord here. Just playing a little bit with that G to shake it up. Right, and you'll recognize this move, classic rock and roll move. You see it in the blues, you see it in a lot of genres. That thumping root 5 to root 6 change. And although it's often thought of just as a power chord move, it's important to know that that is the interval that you're working for. We again are finding another 6th interval there. If I were on F or F sharp here to stay in the key of A, that's another 6th shape. A little bit more awkward here, but once you get it up the neck, it's a little bit more comfortable. Anyway, and then I close out. Let's bring it back here a little bit ago. Climbing a chromatic set of 6 at the end of this. B to G, C to G sharp, C sharp to A. And closing out with one last pair at the top. I'll just want to finish by mentioning the right hand technique, which comes into this and often comes into intervallic pairs. When you're gapping a string, when your pair has an unused string between it, you need to do something to address that note in between so that you don't mess up your 6s or muck it up with an unwanted note. There are a number of ways to do that. One is to just use your right hand fingers. I'm doing kind of a hybrid thing here by picking on the bottom and using my fingers on top. You can also strum it if you're careful to just kind of mute that note in between with the meat on your index finger. So a number of ways to do it. Just be careful not to let that note in the middle ring through because it'll ruin your 6s. So that's it. We end the song with a chromatic climb and then the classic kind of 6 right there at the end.